Genesis chapter 4, highlight and key lessons. Overview. Genesis 4 records the first human family after the fall, focusing on the lives of Cain and Abel, the sons of Adam and Eve. This chapter reveals how sin continues to spread and intensify, moving from disobedience in the garden to jealousy, anger, and murder. Despite this, the chapter also shows God's mercy, justice, and faithfulness. Verses 1 to 2, the birth of Cain and Abel. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain. And again she bare his brother Abel. Eve gives birth to 2 sons. Cain becomes a farmer, tiller of the ground. Abel becomes a shepherd, keeper of sheep. The names are significant. Cain, gotten orb acquired. Abel, breath or vapor, perhaps foreshadowing his short life. Eve sees Cain as a gift from God, perhaps hoping he was the promised seed, Genesis 3 verse 15, but tragedy unfolds instead. Verses 3 to 5, offerings to God. Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground. Abel also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and the Lord respected Abel and his offering, but not Cain and his offering. Both brothers bring offerings, but only Abel's is accepted. Why? Abel's offering was of the firstborn and with fat portions, indicating faith, sacrifice, and priority. Cain's offering seems casual, lacking heart and obedience. The key issue is not the type of offering, grain versus animal, but the attitude of the heart. Lesson: God is more concerned with the heart behind the offering than the offering itself. Verses 5 to 7, God's warning to Cain. Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. Cain becomes angry and depressed. God lovingly confronts him. If you do well, will you not be accepted? God warns that sin is crouching at the door, desiring to master him, but encourages him to rule over it. This is the first time sin is personified as a predator seeking to destroy. But Cain is told he has a choice. Lesson? Sin is always near, but we have the power to resist it through God's grace. Verse 8, the first murder. Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. Instead of repenting, Cain murders Abel, the first human death, and it's a brother killing a brother. The sin of jealousy becomes violence. This tragic act shows the swift decline of humanity after Eden. Lesson: unchecked anger and jealousy lead to destruction. Address sin before it grows. Verses 9 to 10, God confronts Cain. Where is Abel your brother? Cain lies and says, Am I my brother's keeper? God replies, Your brother's blood cries out from the ground. Just like with Adam and Eve, God asks a probing question. Cain refuses to own his actions, but God knows. Abel's blood symbolizes injustice, and it cries out, pointing ahead to Jesus, whose blood speaks better things than that of Abel, Hebrews 12 verse 24. Lesson: God sees every injustice and holds us accountable for how we treat others. Verses 11 to 12, Cain's punishment. You are cursed. When you till the ground, it shall not yield unto you. Cain is cursed. The ground will no longer produce for him. He will be a restless wanderer on the earth. This is the first personal curse placed on a human. Lesson: sin brings consequences spiritual, emotional, and physical. Verses 13 to 15, God's mercy to Cain. My punishment is greater than I can bear. Cain fears being killed as a fugitive. God, in his mercy, places a mark on Cain to protect him from vengeance. Despite Cain's sin, God shows restraint and compassion. Lesson: even when we sin, God's mercy is still available. His justice is always balanced with grace. Verse 16, Cain departs. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord. This is the saddest consequence: separation from God's presence. Cain settles in the land of Nod, which means wandering. Lesson: the worst result of sin is not pain, but distance from God. Verses 17 to 22, the line of Cain. Cain builds a city and names it after his son Enoch. His descendants are Jabal, father of nomads and livestock. Jubal, father of music. Tubal-Cain, forger of bronze and iron. These show technological advancement, but without moral progress. One descendant, Lamech, becomes arrogant and violent, bragging about killing a man and demanding even more vengeance than Cain. Lesson: civilization can progress outwardly but decline morally without God. Verses 25 to 26, the birth of Seth. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. Seth means appointed or granted. He is seen as a replacement for Abel, a godly seed through whom the messianic line will come. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. This marks a spiritual revival, a return to worship and seeking God. Key lessons from Genesis chapter 4. 1. Worship must come from the heart. Abel's offering was accepted because it reflected faith and reverence, while Cain's lacked spiritual sincerity. Lesson: when we worship or give, it must come from a place of genuine love and obedience to God. 2. Jealousy is destructive. Cain's envy led to hate and murder. Instead of correcting himself, he targeted his brother. Lesson: don't compare your life to others. Celebrate others' success and focus on pleasing God. 3. Sin is like a predator. God described sin as crouching at the door. It waits for the opportunity to strike when we are weak, angry, or isolated. Lesson: be vigilant. Confess sins quickly and stay close to God. 4. God confronts before he judges. God gave Cain the chance to repent before acting. His warning was clear. Lesson: listen to God's correction. He disciplines out of love. 5. God's mercy goes beyond justice. Cain deserved death, yet God marked him for protection. Lesson: God is merciful even when we fail. Don't run from him, run to him. 6. Separation from God is the worst consequence. Cain left God's presence and built a life without him. Success without God is still emptiness. Lesson: stay connected to God. No career, city, or accomplishment can replace his presence. 7. God preserves a righteous line. Through Seth, God re-established his redemptive plan. Where sin abounded, grace abounded more. Lesson: even in a broken world, you can choose to live godly. You can be part of God's faithful remnant. Final reflection. Genesis 4 teaches us that the heart matters most to God. Religion, offerings, and outward success mean nothing without sincerity, humility, and obedience. It also reveals how quickly sin can spiral from small offenses to deep wounds if not dealt with. But above all, Genesis 4 shows that God is still merciful, even when we go astray. He protects, warns, corrects, and ultimately keeps his redemptive promise alive even through broken people.